But welcome, Michael. It is an absolute privilege to have you on A Curious Coach with me. So I just want to really hand it over to you. I want you to introduce yourself and just tell us what your personal story is and what led you to where you are today. Because every time I speak to you, I am full of excitement and adrenaline because you are just an incredible soul. So please, over to you.
Awesome. Well, first, thanks for having me on today. It is an honor and a privilege to be a part of A Curious Coach. And it's always an interesting thing, right? So the question of tell me about you, tell me the journey. And then that could start in any given place. It could go in any direction. And so as I was thinking about today's interview, I went and put on a shirt that says live full time. And I thought that would be a good starting point. And I tell you why I think that's a good starting point. With almost 8 billion people on planet Earth, I still remember that I'm just one human being. So I am currently, as of today, 45 and a half-ish years old. And like many people, have had ups and downs and twists and turns and bumps and bruises and excitements and fears, jump all in, hesitations, loves, hurts, confusions, excitements, all of the above. And, so to kind of combine a 45-year life story into a short compressed time frame, I was born in Gaithersburg, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., moved 9 times by the time I was in 3rd grade. My dad supported kind of like military type establishments as an engineer. So I had this little, I guess, from a young age till 3rd grade, all these travels, this desire or this forcing of meeting new people, having new experiences, having to fit in. And then grew up in Maryland and graduated high school, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to go to college. And in college, I was studying business and started a little hypothetical business for a school project, which was a wedding and event planning business. And they asked me when I was 19 years old, if you could do anything in the world and get paid to do it, what would you do? And I thought, well, if I could get paid to party for a living, that would be amazing, which is why I did this project as a mobile DJ / party planner. Little did I know that where many of us make one simple little decision, that one decision would kind of course correct or course direct me for an extended period of time. That little school project turned into a 14-year business where I started this business. We supply DJs, photographers, videographers, full service wedding and event planners from upstate New York down to the Bahamas. Now, I say that because it sounds good, but actually we only did 1 wedding in New York and 1 wedding in the Bahamas. So most of it was right around here locally. But in that industry, Sarah, this is where something really interesting happened for me. When you're in that type of service business, I would get calls from churches, nonprofits, charities asking if we could donate a DJ, donate a photographer for a fundraiser event. And so in my mid-20s, my heart gets ripped open of there's all this need in the world, right? You name it, there's a cause for it. Starving kids here, domestic abuse here, animal abuse here. And I saw all these amazing organizations with these great hearts, this great driving mission, but they were spending all their time fundraising so that they could go do these things. And they weren't actually doing the things because they were fundraising and then having to take that money to do a new fundraiser and a new fundraiser. So I was like, man, there's got to be a way to help these cool organizations. So I had my traditional business. So then I started another business, which I was going to use to solely fund charitable projects that called to my heart. Little did I know where that one little decision would lead me down a whole nother path. Where in 2010, I don't know if you remember the big earthquake that happened in the island country of Haiti.
Yeah.
It was devastating. Thousands, I think 2,000 people died. I had never done any service work or anything to that capacity in that space. So for whatever reason, that earthquake happened. My heart said, you got to go down there and be a volunteer somehow, some way. And ended up in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, 6 days after the earthquake, and Little did I know what one of my job duties or descriptions would be to pull dead bodies out of demolished buildings or move rubble to see if the bodies were actually still alive or dead. And it was an earth-shattering, life-changing experience because I was talking with families who had lost, they didn't have a lot of material things anyway, but now they had lost their family, and some of them hadn't even been able to really mourn it yet for their family or friends because they didn't know if they were alive or dead. And so through this experience, here's where one of my big aha moments happened. Tuesday, I'm pulling dead bodies out of buildings. Thursday, I fly back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I had my wedding and event planning business. I meet with the bride and groom who get in a fight over what color their chair covers were going to be.
Wow.
And talk about differing perspectives, right? And so I was like, man, this 14-year journey that I had been on building this business in quotes. I put that in quotes because what I've come to realize after the fact is my business actually became my identity. It became who I was, how I identified myself in the world in public and how other people saw me. And that's not a healthy thing to do, I think, looking back, right? We're human beings and those things kind of are birthed out of us. But I ended up in a super, super dark, scary place because my whole life felt like it crumbled at that point. Like, what the heck am I doing? You know, what's my tombstone going to say? World's greatest little party planner. Like, that's not what I want to do with my life. Sent me in a downward spiral, ended up $297,000 in credit card debt. That was not a pleasant experience. Multiple creditors calling me all day, every day. About 60 pounds overweight, had a relationship kind of go into turmoil and end. And at that point, for about the next 2 years, from 2010 to 2012, I was in this evaluation phase. All right. I ended up broke, I ended up fat, and I ended up broken emotionally and kind of spiritually. So this was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I was like, man, I've got to do something different with my life. 2012 is when this was. I've got to do something different. And if I've got to recreate, because I have no money, I have no this, I have no that. Now I was alive and breathing and everything. So, but if I've got to recreate my life, I don't want to do it the old way that I was doing it. Getting stuck in traffic, frustrated with this, somebody else dictating my time and all the things that I was doing. And I said, you know what? I wonder if it was possible to live full time. So I came up with 8 parameters. I used note cards for a lot of my life, and I kind of jotted down a series of things and said, all right, I need 8 things. So as I move into this next phase, I want to be able to work from home, which is now turned into work from anywhere, but work from anywhere, hang out with amazing people, have fun, be inspired, inspire others, impact children and communities around the world, travel if and when and however I want to, and make a ridiculous amount of money at the same time. God, law of attraction, however all this stuff works, if you could deliver that, that would be amazing.
I think
that was
just I'm sitting here like, my goodness, because I cross paths with so many people. You said something really touching in your story. There's a lot of touching moments of, I became my business, and you put it in quotations, and that became your personality, what you knew. And it was only through these other life events of seeing what really living life on the edge meant. You know, you went from being the party planner to seeing life as it was at its rawest, you know, of seeing people grieving and lost, or stuck in the middle of nowhere because they weren't able to grieve. There are so many people who believe their business or job is what defines them as a human being. And I just want to say, wow, and thank you for, one, showing that you became aware that that isn't who you are as a human being, but 2, for sharing that with this audience, because it is relatable to every age group, every gender, everyone on this planet who believes that this societal norm of work, and there's a certain function that we have to live by. Thank you for breaking that, and thank you for sharing that, because that's inspiring. And just thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been one of my biggest, and I still find myself, so that was, again, let's say 10 years ago. It was 2012. And so, yeah, almost 10 years ago. And I still find myself being sucked back in, just when you're out and about in a networking function or a social gathering. And one of the questions people ask is, well, what do you do? Right? That's kind of, at least here in the States. I don't know if it's the same way in the UK, but it's one of the recurring questions. And I have to remind myself, like, what do I do? Well, I get on a Zoom and I talk with Sarah and I have really cool conversations, and I go to the gym and I eat breakfast and I use the bathroom and I take showers and I listen to music. Like, those are the things that I do. Do you mean, what do I do to make money? Like, it's a very different question of what do you do? Who are you? Then what do you do to generate money? And I find myself still even coming back into that space. So this is a great reminder for me.
Yeah, and thank you, because I find myself always saying thank you, but I forever learn with every conversation that I have. And, I suppose I want to know a little bit more, that you've been on this insane journey that doesn't even sound real. If you hear this back, or when you hear this back, you'll be like, wow, that's my life. Okay, this is mad. You've got your 8 principles, and you said something about, please, universe, if you support me, please, I'm ready to receive them. But as you continue to talk, you're connecting with people, and they're all starting to come together. Would you say that you're now living those 8 principles, or are you forever working on them and building on them and trying to work out the meanings of those 8 principles, I guess?
Yeah, so great question. And a mentor / advisor / friend of mine years ago said, I want you to look at life as like a heartbeat, right? If you look at like the EKG, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but when you look at a heartbeat, it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And if a heart only started beating faster and stronger, faster and stronger, faster and stronger, faster and stronger, it would explode and you would be dead, right? And if your heartbeat was just completely flat, you'd be flatlined and you'd be dead. So life is a series of these ups and downs. And of course, we determine what we consider an up and we consider a down. So to answer your question specifically, it's crazy. Depending on what somebody's faith or belief is, that if you ask, you will get answers. And so after putting that out into the ether, out into the world, praying to God, putting it to the universe, within 2 weeks, I met somebody that drastically changed my life forever. And then for about 8 years, 7.5, 8 years, absolutely, those 8 principles, I would have said, hands down, without a doubt, every single thing I've ever dreamed of is happening. And then this thing called COVID hits, right? So be able to travel the world freely, like that was one of my, and it still is one of my big 8 criteria. And so again, what felt like it was on this trajectory and up at the top, the past 1.5 years, in full disclosure, has had a lot of these moments because it felt like I was not able to travel. I was not able to make the impact the way that I had been making the impact, face-to-face, meeting with people, hugs, high fives, all that kind of stuff. And so now, yes, still able to kind of be anywhere. So a lot of the principles are still there, but I have been really, really dealing with, again, who am I? What's important to me? What do I want my future to look like, as opposed to getting stuck in the in the mud?
Yeah, and I suppose that naturally really flows into, again, I'm just going to take a step back. One, it's really important to highlight that, again, life doesn't always go upwards, because we would die, and if it flatlines. So sometimes we need that reality check, a bit like what you're saying of, okay, what do these 8 principles mean to me, right? The world's changing, but how do I reconnect with them so that they're of value to you, right? If I've understood correctly. And I suppose what I want to know now is, out of all of this journey, what have been the greatest barriers and what have been the greatest successes you have faced in your 45.5-ish years of this beautiful life experience that we're living right now?
Yeah, for me, and it's I'll think of it as a broad category, which has a whole bunch of different individual pieces to it. But self-worth, self-belief, limiting beliefs, that whole category of one feeling like they are enough. And for me, that's been a constant and never-ending battle, a constant and always ongoing, what feels like a fight that I have to believe that I am enough. And some of the things that have helped through that process, and I'll just use I'll speak for me, and I have to imagine other people may relate to this as well. Like for years and 45 and a half years almost. So when I get out of the shower and dry off and there's a mirror, right? The first thing that I look at are what I would consider my flaws, the things that I don't like about myself. And it's not like conscious. I'm not going, oh, let me look like I had a bad pimple when I was younger. So I have this little like thing there. I had a popped blood vessel in my ear. So like my right ear sticks out more. Nobody has ever even noticed until I've pointed it out. But those things like that we see in ourselves, I don't look in the mirror and go, wow, Michael, you've got beautiful blue eyes. Like, wow, Michael, right? You've done these great things in the past and you can do great things in the future. That's not where my mind instantaneously goes. It instantaneously goes to, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this, that, or the other, whether it's the conscious words or the subconscious there. So that has been just a constant barrage of barrier. And so I've been trying to implement different tactics, different strategies, different aha moments, different awarenesses to be able to break through those. And at times it's going really good. And at times those barriers seem to be stronger than others. But self-belief, self-worth, self-confidence, limiting beliefs, that mentality, I think, has just been the biggest overall barrier.
Yeah. So you sit here and I certainly relate to what you're saying. And I think there is a wide audience actually globally where people go, oh, yeah, I so do that. And, you know, a mirror is great, but it's also an enemy, right? That's my opinion on that. But you have these limiting beliefs. You go on this up and down ride of a heartbeat, which is life in its all its beauty. But what are the successes? What enables you to sit here today and say, I am living my 8 principles, although I know I have to constantly relate back to them and reconnect with them on a daily practice, but you sit here with a huge smile on your face, shining those blue eyes, and with a passion for life that not many people allow others to see. And I say this on my personal connection with you. You are an incredibly passionate man. So what are the successes that got you to where you are now?
Yeah. You know, there's lots of little ones. I think we all can, if we were to really think about it, we can come up with some triggering or turning points in our lives. Now, every single second of every single day has the potential to be one of those aha moments or those experiences that we look back on and go, oh my gosh, it was 11:16 a.m. September 20th, 2021 when I was on this Zoom and that changed my life forever. But a lot of times they just kind of ramble through the day. But we usually have a few key things that we can turn to, whether they were good or bad, that impact us. And for me, one of those turning points was in 2012. So after I had been to Haiti, I was in this dark space. I was fat, broken is some of the things I say. And I watched a movie, and the movie is called In Time with Justin Timberlake. He's the main actor. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't, but carry on. I will now watch it.
Okay. So the movie, and other people may not get the same thing I got out of it, but it changed my life forever. And it is the exact answer to your question. So the movie, it's kind of futuristic, and people are born as infants and then they age until they're 25. And when they turn 25, all the humans in the world are genetically modified to no longer age. So you turn 25 and you're 25 for the rest of your life.
Wow.
With the exception of when you turn 25, everybody has a life clock built into their arm. And when you turn 25, you are given 1 year of life left. And as soon as you turn 25, you feel your clock turn on and you watch your life tick down second by second by second by second. Now, there's no money like tangible dollars in the world. The currency is time instead of money. So instead of going to a job and making $80,000 a year, you might get a year and a half added. Instead of going to Starbucks and buying a coffee for $4, it might cost you 4 minutes. So you're always adding and subtracting time, but it's always ticking down. And if and when it gets to zero, you'd be like, hey, Sarah, I got 11 seconds left. It was nice knowing you. And when it gets to zero, you just die right there. And so the rich, instead of having millions of dollars, they live for millions of years at 25 years old. No aging, no cancer, no problems, no nothing. The poor, instead of living check to check, which I've done at several points in my life, they literally might wake up and only have 6 hours left on their clock. And if they don't go hustle and get more time added, borrowing from friends, doing a job, like something, stealing and selling, like doing something to get some time, their life is over. And so I'm watching that movie in this space where I am, in this dark space. I've got to recreate my life. And I said, okay, so let's play a scenario. If I only had 6 hours left to live right now, I was going to die at 5:19 p.m. today, but I was full of health. I might not have all the money in the world, but literally at 5:19 p.m. today, what would I do with the next 6 hours? And it got me thinking, well, I wouldn't go sell as many wedding services as I could, which is what happened. I wouldn't do this other business. I wouldn't do this. So if I only had 6 hours and I wouldn't do these things, why the hell am I doing them? But what would I do? And I said, well, I'd call my friends and family and say, I love you. Thanks for all the good times I had. I wouldn't be able to get to everybody because I only have physically 6 hours. But I would try to clean up any of those past hurts that I had caused or that had been caused with me. And, I would try to live as much as I could in those 6 hours. I said, okay, so how do my decisions change if I have 6 days? Because now I can fly somewhere to see somebody. I could go scuba diving in the Caribbean. I could do this one, jump out of an airplane. So how do my decisions change if I have 6 weeks? What if I have 6 years? What if I have 6 decades? So from watching that movie, it has now been this journey of, and it's very cliche, it's very ideal. It does not happen in any way of perfection at all, but it's the focus. How do I live today as if it was my last? Because there's a chance that it could be for all of us. Being in Haiti with that earthquake, those people died, had no idea. Katie's mom was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, passed away 14 months later, from complete healthy to death 14 months. So how do I live totally present in the moment, enjoy and squeeze the juice out of this call right here, out of this present moment, while still planning for a long, fruitful future? And so it's that fine balance, but that's kind of how I ideally like to live in life and in that space. And of course, I screw it up many times a day. But that's how I want to stay present, stay alive, stay full of life. Because what if tomorrow it was over?
Beautiful. And I think there's a message within that. The mishaps or the down moments are just a sign to show you to stay on track. What lesson is there to learn? And I think your message there, that time is the value. We all have 24 hours to live. How are you going to use them? That is the present moment. And I love the fact that you say it is not easy, because it is not. However, I think my message that I'm receiving from you, a personal one for me is, what does quality of life mean, and what does love really mean? It makes you define the words that you use and the actions that you wake up with. So again, that is such a powerful message. And to get that from a movie, okay, yes, it was futuristic, but it just shows that at any moment, a conversation, a story, a situation can just click your mind and make you focus.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we've been on this, I mean, all of your story. So once again, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your truth and your journey. To the audience that are listening, what message would you give to them? Now, the audience that listens is very diverse from all over the place. So what would your message be to them?
Yeah, I think it would be back around that same topic that we just talked about, and I'll share it with a little bit of a twist to it. And this, I'm speaking to others, but I'm looking at myself in the screen as well, so I'm speaking to me. Yeah. So if your life, or if our life was going to be over tonight at midnight, wherever you are, like, would you hug your spouse differently? Would you talk to your kids differently? Like, the people that are important to you, how would you interact with them if you knew that life was going to be over tonight? And then if you had 6 months and you were in full health, it wasn't going to be like deteriorating in a whatever, but you had full health, but you knew at such and such time life was going to be over. What are those peak life experiences? What are those things that we've been putting off? What are those things that, like, man, I want to be able to look back at the end of my life and say, yes, I did it. Maybe it is starting a business, starting a nonprofit, seeing a part of the world, volunteering somewhere, and like, go do it. Because if that time's coming for all of us, right? It's coming at some point. We hope it's going to be a long way away. But what if we could live a life where we are like focusing every day? How do I make today a 10 out of 10 experience? How do I make eating this meal a 10 out of 10? How do I take doing this Zoom a 10 out of 10? How do I play with the dog and make it a 10 out of 10 experience? And just with that mentality and with that focus, man, it's amazing the weight that gets lifted off, the joy that's brought about, and the impact that kind of spills over and impacts your family, your community, the state, the country, and the world. Imagine if we all lived that way. It'd be beautiful.
I mean, that is our mission. I think if you don't take that as your mission to give that message to everyone that you come across, every connection you make, I reckon you can get that message across nice and clearly, and you will be able to say it with all your passion and with all the love you have for the planet we live on. Out of curiosity, if I was to speak to you then 6 months from now, just before, hypothetically, because it's not going to happen, but life is going to end in 6 months' time, what have you experienced? Where do you see yourself? What story will you be telling?
Are you asking me?
I am asking you, yes.
So I actually keep my bucket list book with me at all times. A lot of people have a vision board, but if you leave somewhere, you can't take the vision board with you. So here, this was updated as of August 9th. So here's my goal. Hike and watch the sunrise over Machu Picchu, swim in the Devil's Pool, Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, sleep in an igloo under the Northern Lights, do a road trip around the United States. 6-pack abs. I started that one today at the gym, as I was saying. But I think in the next 6 months, the things that would be the absolute dream desire right now, the top of my travel list, like, I will see the Northern Lights in person. That's like something I've always wanted to do. So I'm really excited about that. And from a business project standpoint, again, it's no longer my identity, but it is a project that is a way that I can use my highest and best self to serve the world. It's open-ended at this point. I just finished a designation to get my travel agent certification this past weekend. So I might be a full-on travel agent starting this week.
Incredible. I just want to say I'm so excited to speak to you and witness this journey that you are about to go on, because I believe in your passion and your story and your journey 110%. But just thank you for coming on and showing people that whatever you go through in life, every experience brings opportunities, and to be open to those opportunities, because you never know where they're going to lead you. And to embrace those ups and downs that you spoke about, because each down has a lesson and each up makes it all worthwhile. So Michael, thank you so much. To everyone listening, all details to contact Michael will be in the comment box below, and I appreciate you. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.